The Priory in New Forest went in and just said, look, I won't see the end of today unless you help me. I think if you think there's something wrong, like you've got to seek help, and it's not great in this country for sure. First port of call should be your GP. Just get in there, just get in the system. They'll offer you various things, talk therapy or whatever, but take whatever's offered. For a tough guy like I was, it's not always that easy to go, I'm struggling here. I'm really self-aware, and that's probably what kept me alive, to be fair, because I stopped drinking for 4 years, all through that illness. So I knew the moment I lost an inhibition, I was gone. I was lucky I was quite self-aware, but not self-aware enough to do something about it early on. Yeah, and to avoid bad mental health, it's like do more things you enjoy than you don't. Get people out of your life that you don't want to be around. You've got no duty to be around anybody, family or anybody, like if they're not good for you. Self-esteem is probably the biggest thing that's linked to your mental health. So how you view yourself, self-esteem is a relationship you have with yourself. Self-esteem doesn't come from chanting mantras in a mirror in the morning. Right? It comes from building an undeniable stack of evidence that you are who you say you are. I've got that. I've got tons of that. My boy's got tons of that. We climb mountains, we run, we're disciplined. Do stuff that makes you feel good about yourself, or you're proud of yourself. When my boy does something, I never say to him, I'm proud of you, not to begin with. I say, are you proud of yourself, Charlie, for what you've just done? And then you're not seeking external validation, which is an absolute fucking trap. When I was ill, I was over-exercising. So obviously a good, healthy habit, my psychiatrist said I was self-harming just because I wasn't cutting myself or doing drugs or whatever. What I was doing to myself was a form of self-harm. So I would always say exercise, but obviously just be careful with that. Exercise, because that's really bloody good for you. But also the other things I did, I kept my standards high. I got out of bed, I showered, I shaved, I washed my clothes. Having dealt with a lot of mental health in the police, they look a certain way, they've let themselves go. And it goes back to that self-esteem. And that might have kept me alive, just having that 5% of a tiny bit of respect for myself, that I didn't go to complete rat shit. I looked presentable. It's a tiny win. Like if you make your bed, it's a tiny win. If you shower, it's a tiny win. And to somebody who's well, that doesn't sound like a win, but when you're ill, that's a win. So stack up those wins. That might get you to the end of the day. That might give you just enough self-esteem and self-respect to get you to the end of the day.